You all really love the goo, and I'm here to love that symbiotic black mass of alien space goop along with you. I'm your host, Amanda McKnight. You can find me over on Twitter at Vampex13 if you want to talk more about Venom, but for now we're going to jump into another weird, chaotic video where I attempt to explain the extended Venom family tree in this part 2. Last time I asked if you would like an extended family tree for Venom where we cover clones and hosts as related to Venom and their offspring, and you said yes! So let's do that thing. Starting off, I have to pay respects to, yes, the one newest member of the Venom symbiote family that I missed. I'm so sorry, you sweet, sweet goo baby. How could I have forsaken you thus? But do not worry, I'm going to make it up to you. That's right, we're talking about Silence. In part 1 of this video series, I talked about Scream. Scream was one of Venom's forced pregnancies when they were taken by the Life Foundation and forced to procreate. Scream would have quite a journey in the comics. First, the symbiote was crazed and somewhat chaotic due to their actual schizophrenic host, then they were dead, then they were revived but became nullified before finally settling into a more permanent host, but only for their host to be killed again. Overall, a very rough go. Dr. Steven, the head of Alchemex's astrobiology department, would acquire samples of the symbiote's corpse and attempt to revive it. This might sound kinda mad science-y and evil, but Dr. Steven overall is known as an ally to and expert on symbiotes. Unable to revive Scream, Dr. Steven then combined the samples he had with some anti-venom serum, and lo and behold, something new was born from this genetic combination. This something new took the name of Silence, as they saw themselves as the absence of Scream or anti-Scream. And what is the absence of a Scream? Silence. Silence made their first comic book appearance in Extreme Carnage Phage issue number 1. Silence would bond with the same host as had become the newest permanent host for the Scream symbiote, Andy Benton. We'll talk a little bit more about Andy later on though. While Silence is like a genetic offspring of Anti-Venom and Scream, you could also consider them a clone. In fact, it's kinda better if you do, because Anti-Venom and Scream hooking up, it kinda sounds weird, considering that Venom is the parent of Scream and Anti-Venom is like an alternate clone of Venom in a way, or you know, like Venom's brother. So that's kinda weird. Symbiotes are weird though, so maybe that doesn't bother you. But speaking of clones, the Venom family has quite a few. But just who are these symbiote clones exactly? First up, let's focus on the main symbiote of this family, Venom. In part 1, I listed a slew of other influential figures that I didn't have time to dig into more that were also important to Venom, so we're going to start with one of those. Starting off with the clone made from a piece of Venom's tongue, Mania, who would later be known as Maniac. Mania was created by the Ararat Corporation and was to be used in an alien's plot to destroy all life on Earth, but the symbiote got loose and things quickly went pretty sideways. It would jump from host to host, draining them, and would become particularly obsessed with Patricia Robertson, one of the few people who had managed to survive the clone's deadly rampage, and Wolverine, who the clone saw as its ideal host. Eventually, the clone would be devoured by Venom, reabsorbed, but during Venom's time with host Flash Thompson, the clone would later be regurgitated and then merge with Andy Benton, becoming known as Mania. Later on, Lee Price would take the symbiote clone from Andy, and while merged with Price, it would become known as Maniac, adding a C on the end there. Fitting for a host as diabolically evil and cruel as Lee Price. I wonder if that's what the C is for, cruelty. But there isn't just a replica of Venom in Mania/Maniac. Venom also had another straight up clone known as Venom the Third or Legion. This alternate version of the symbiote was actually not just a clone of Venom. It was a sample of the Earth 1610 or Ultimate Universe Venom, merged with a bunch of other symbiote codices from Earth 616 Venom, Carnage, Phage, Lasher, Riot, Agony, Mania, Sleeper, and Tyrannosaurus, as well as a collection of codices from other famous heroes who once bonded with a symbiote. This alternate amalgamated Venom clone would be absorbed to help boost Venom in their fight against Dark Carnage, allowing Eddie to manifest a Necrosword to defeat Carnage. Afterwards, Legion was absorbed into Venom, along with the Grendel symbiote, which itself had become a newer version of Carnage. Mania/Maniac and Legion Legion aren't the only Venom clones out there either. While Eddie Brock was separated from the Venom symbiote and suffering from cancer, Anti-Venom was born. This was as a result of Mr. Negative's powers fusing white blood cells with remnants of the Venom symbiote within Eddie, which healed him and created something new. A sort of living, but initially non-sentient, purifying symbiote which became known as Anti-Venom. While Eddie was bonded with Anti-Venom, he was free of having any other pesky voices to share his consciousness with, and could finally be at peace, alone in his own head. Anti-Venom, however, is also dangerous to symbiotes as it completely purifies its host body, meaning it can destroy any invading viruses, diseases, or of course, alien symbiotes that happen to hitch a ride, so watch out for that. Agent Anti-Venom is also not just Anti-Venom bonded with Flash Thompson, but another altered version of a piece of Venom created by a derivative anti-venom serum which was created using the original Anti-Venom. Are you confused yet? Basically, the Anti-Venom serum was made by Dr. Steven as a result of what he learned from Anti-Venom, the symbiote clone. When Venom attempted to bond with both Flash Thompson and Eddie Brock at the same time, Spider-Man attempted to save them, spilling a bunch of Anti-Venom serum onto Flash. This Anti-Venom serum altered the part of Venom that was bonded with him, creating Agent Anti-Venom, which is the name for the symbiote offshoot when it is bonded to Flash Thompson. It doesn't end there either, because of course it doesn't. There is a third Anti-Venom as well. This one, like the third version of Venom's kinda clone, Legion, happens to be an amalgamation of sorts. Anti-Venom the Third was made manifest by Flash Thompson from within the hive mind. Using freed symbiotes, Flash was able to physically appear as an Anti-Venom styled symbiote dragon in the real world. Pretty badass. This dragon also ended up being Flash's one-way ticket back to life afterwards, allowing him to resurrect himself, which is how he returned to life after he died. This symbiote would later become known as the new Agent Anti-Venom. Although the weird thing about that is before we said, Anti-Venom isn't really connected to the hive mind, and now it is, and now it's kinda got a consciousness and is sentient or something, so that is confusing. But hey, it's part of the comics. Most clones, as you can see, get reabsorbed or altered in some way during resurrection. But do symbiote clones also ever have symbiote babies of their own? That's a good question. For the most part, I would say no. But as with the weirdness that is the Venom family tree, there are always some exceptions. Namely with Mania or Maniac. Maniac gave birth, not really, but kind of, to some symbiotes when Lee Price infected the members of Black Cat's gang with pieces of the Maniac symbiote. Bonding with the remnants of symbiote from Venom in Mac Gargan's body, which technically meant that Maniac bonded with that which it was cloned from, something new was created, called Scorpion. Scorpion is a green and black symbiote that looks similar to Mac Gargan's Scorpion armor. Sadly, Scorpion wouldn't be around for too long and would later be destroyed in a fight with Agent Anti-Venom. Scorpion, though, was just one member of the Inklings, a group of criminals who were possessed by pieces of the Maniac symbiote. If you want to consider them children, you kinda could. Obviously, Gargan had a little more free will, but some of those targeted were more like prisoners to the symbiote that had attached to them. Lee Price created the Inklings as part of a plan to create his own gang and criminal empire. And for most of them, the piece of symbiote they had was just like on their face like a mask. Among those infected, along with Black Cat's gang, was also Black Cat herself. Those who were being controlled as well were freed from the influence of their symbiotes at the same time that the symbiote Scorpion was destroyed in Venom issue 160, when Andy Benton and Agent Anti-Venom attacked them with anti-venom coated weapons and explosive bullets. And that was the end of the Inklings. Any surviving pieces of Maniac returned to host Lee Price. While clones and their offspring are pretty cool, when it comes to Venom, there are lots of influential figures who I would consider part of the family tree who aren't symbiotes at all. We call these non-symbiote family members hosts. Venom has had many hosts over the years. In the first part of this explained video, I listed some of them as I was short on time, but for this extended family tree, this part 2 if you will, I have a little bit more time to outline some of these important hosts and how they came to connect with the Venom symbiote. Although historically it's likely that Null was first, Tel-Kar is often referred to as the first host or original host when it comes to the Venom symbiote. Tel-Kar was retconned to be that, but hey, we still gotta respect the retcon sometimes. Tel-Kar is a member of the Kree, and he used the symbiote in the Kree-Skrull War, using it to infiltrate, sabotage, and assassinate the Skrull. After Tel-Kar was captured, the Venom symbiote happened to escape, eventually coming to Earth, and only after taking up the name of Venom for itself and its main host. Tel-Kar would return later and also end up bonded with Sleeper. Sleeper would actually use Tel-Kar as a kind of internal meat puppet for a while, after he'd been put in a brain-dead state by Sleeper. Later, Tel-Kar would die while still bonded with the symbiote, and I believe Sleeper actually tried to hold on to that corpse for a while, but that's another tale for another time. Once the Venom symbiote found its way to Earth, it bonded with Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man. This is supposedly what gave it spider-like abilities, being bonded to a superhuman host like Spider-Man. However, when Spider-Man learned that the cool new black suit he'd obtained was actually a living being that was controlling his body at night, well, he wanted no part of it and decided to leave the symbiote. Venom didn't like that very much and was like, I feel rejected. This is how the symbiote would meet the love of their life and become Venom, bonding with Eddie Brock, who had his own reasons for hating Spider-Man. Their mutual hate of Spider-Man created a strong connection between Eddie and the Venom symbiote, and over time their bond would become even stronger. Eddie is often considered to be the host for Venom, as Cletus Cassidy often is considered the host for Carnage. However, Venom has found it hard to choose between bonding with Spider-Man and or Eddie when given the chance, and of course has also found it hard sometimes when choosing between Eddie and Flash. During the Venom symbiote's time with Eddie, it would also bond a few times with Anne Wang, Eddie Brock's ex-wife, giving us the horrifying sexiness that is She-Venom. Venom started as a villain, would become a hero, but would return to a life of brutality and villainy when it bonded for a time with Matt Gargan, who would also become a sort of on-again, off-again host for the symbiote, to a much lesser extent though, of course, in comparison to someone like Eddie Brock, or even I would say Flash Thompson. Venom would then once more return to being a hero, this time the greatest hero the symbiote really had ever been, when it met and bonded with Flash Thompson. It was given to Flash after he lost his legs during his military tour in Iraq. Flash would teach Venom the meaning of being a hero, which the symbiote would come around to as time went on, though Flash would often still need substances to help him control the symbiote for a while. However, it was also during Venom's time with Flash that they would travel to Clintar and the symbiote would be purified of all the evil within it. Flash, with the Venom symbiote, would also go on cosmic adventures and become known for a weird time as Venom Space Knight. From there, Venom was not so lucky in terms of hosts. The symbiote's next new host would be a cruel one, Lee Price. Lee Price is known for his constant mistreatment of the symbiote. Also, although Venom had just been purified, Price's time with the symbiote began to corrupt the mind and kind of soul of Venom once more, making Venom question itself and become extremely insecure. A slew of other characters have bonded with the Venom symbiote, including Otto Octavius, sometimes known as Dr. Octopus or Doc Ock for short. This was during a time, however, that Otto was in Peter's body, known as Superior Spider-Man, and then for a short time, of course, as Superior Venom, while bonded with the symbiote. Although it was short-lived, Otto in Peter's body bonding with Venom is really cool to note, as Carnage has actually also merged with Norman Osborn before, so both symbiotes now also have ties to other famous Spider-Man villains. Cletus Cassidy would also bond with the Venom symbiote much later on, after Cletus was resurrected by the Grendel symbiote, which combined with the remnants of the Carnage symbiote to resurrect Carnage. He would set out on a mission to awaken Null, the god of symbiotes. Through absorbing all the codices within the bodies of those who were once merged with the symbiote. In the end, he succeeded despite dying, and Venom was one of those that he amassed. However, Eddie would seemingly kill Cletus, at least his physical body, taking all the codices back within himself and becoming Venom once more, before going on to become the King in Black. Following Eddie becoming the King in Black, Dylan Brock, Eddie's son, who we talked about on part 1 of this list, became the host of the Venom symbiote. As Venom is also kind of like a parent to Dylan, this allows Venom to also keep an eye on him for Eddie when Eddie is otherwise busy leading the hive mind. There are so many more hosts I want to tell you about, like Cletus Cassidy, Andy Benton, Shriek, Donna Diego, Patricia Robertson, and all the famous superhuman hosts like Wolverine, the Hulk, She-Hulk, Captain Marvel, Silver Surfer, the Guardians of the Galaxy, Spider-Woman, and so many more. However, that is all the time we have for today. If you want to hear about even more symbiotic hosts for Venom and the Venom family, let us know in the comments. What did you learn from this video? What other confusing comic book family trees or concepts should we attempt to explain? Share your thoughts. This has been Top 10 Nerd, and I'm your host, Amanda McKnight. Thank you for watching. Until I see you next, you stay nerdy, YouTube.